Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. Canadian North and the federal government are facing criticism over major changes to the airline's baggage rates. Those changes come into effect today. The cost of a second bag has jumped by 50%, and the cost of an overweight bag has tripled. The airline says it's a move to discourage people from checking so many bags. As the CBC's Nick Murray reports, these changes are going to hit Northerners hard.
It's about to get much more expensive for Nunavut to travel with extra bags. An oversized bin now costs $230 to fly with. Anything heavier than 50 pounds is $172.50. Canadian North refused CBC's request for an interview. In a statement, a spokesperson said the move comes in response to customer requests. Former Nunavut Senator Dennis Patterson says the move is punishing the airline's largest customer base.
It's well known that people always max their baggage allowances. And so to hit people who are bringing up essential goods that they can't otherwise get in the north when they're traveling from southern Canada is punitive.
But the changes don't just apply to people traveling up from the south. Anyone traveling to smaller communities will also be subject to the new rates. Patterson says he blames the federal government for not being stricter with the terms and conditions of the 2019 merger with First Air. Ottawa approved new conditions last year, which allowed Canadian North to hike passenger and cargo rates by 25%. It also allowed the airline to turn a 10% profit on top of recouping losses totaling more than $32 million. Ancillary fees, including baggage fees, have never been covered by the merger terms and conditions.
From the airline's perspective, this kind of auxiliary fees are major source of revenue for the airlines. Ultimately, it is not illegal per se, and the answer is they can charge as much as they want.
And that's a fine balance that Canadian North has done.
Nunavut Transport Minister David Akiarok said the government was notified of the changes ahead of their announcement 2 weeks ago. He said he didn't push back against the fee hikes.
And I think it's been years coming, but it is here now, and it's reality, because you either bump your baggages or bump your passengers.
In its statement to CBC News, Canadian North said similar changes have been implemented by most, if not all, airlines in Canada and encouraged the CBC to research those changes and report the findings. So CBC News conducted an analysis of most major domestic airlines in Canada and some northern operators to compare their baggage fees. We found that while Canadian North was among the few airlines to offer a free first checked bag on its lowest class of fare, its extra fees were the highest among the airlines we surveyed. The full analysis is available on our website, cbc.ca/north. Nick Murray, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The hamlet of Tuktoyaktuk remains confident in its plan to protect its shoreline from erosion. That's despite weather delays and supply issues preventing it from reaching its first milestone. Des Loreen has the latest.
They are huge, and they can withstand Mother Nature. Mighty rocks shipped all the way from Inuvik to protect this fragile shoreline from eroding into the ocean. But finding the right rocks isn't easy.
They had a hard time sourcing that rock.
The hamlet wanted to cover the whole shoreline with these big boulders by now, but a supply shortage has caused delays. So smaller rocks are filling in the void in some areas until the bigger ones are available. Then it will be rock solid.
It's an engineered design, and it's designed to last approximately like 30 years. And by then, TUC should be able to reconsider and look at relocation of the community.
People here don't want that, but they understand the power of the ocean.
It'll delay it a bit, just like it delayed it the first time they put the rocks there and everything like this. But it's not going to stop it totally for sure, unfortunately.
Noella Cockney knows firsthand this is where her family's home once stood. It was moved inland in 2020. Now she hopes the shoreline can be saved before the cemetery is affected.
It'll be heartbreaking for everybody in the community if they end up having to actually relocate all the individuals in the graveyard, which would be really sad.
Like 30,000 cubic meters of gravel is going to go on here.
This summer, the hamlet will build up this beach close to the cemetery to help it from washing away even further. Work on the rest of the shoreline with the big rocks will pick up again in January. Des Loreen, CBC News, Tuktoyaktuk.
The Northwest Territories Minister of Health and Social Services says the department will be doing a fulsome review of medical travel and how people are moved around for medical needs. Lisa Semler spoke about the issue today in the legislature when MLAs questioned her about gaps in the current system. Here's one exchange between the minister and MLA Denny Rogers.
Is there not a way, and I get that, you know, there is the different plans out there, but again, you have an elder who, whether they're going down to have a hangnail removed, it doesn't matter. If there's an elder, they don't speak English, they need to be navigated, they need help navigating even to get to their appointments. Is there not something we can do to kind of streamline that? So again, that paperwork is not being done. If there's not anybody in, and medical travel is medical travel, and I'm sure the minister has heard many questions on medical travel. Is there not something we can do to streamline that so when you get to a situation where you have an elder in the community, it's just automatic there's an escort in there?
I hear the member. I know of many stories, you know, and I'm not going to deny that this is something that we are aware of. We know this is a gap in our policy, and that is why the medical travel policy is its own target in our, you know, in the business plans. And so this is one of the areas that I really want to focus on. I want to use some of the information that I will learn probably from the bilateral with Inuvialuit, and also to be able to hear from. We have the Indigenous patient advocates who are constantly hearing this. They're taking the data. We know that this is an issue, and I'm not going to say in this House that it's not a gap, but it is, and I recognize, and I am working towards trying to figure out ways to deal with this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The minister elaborated a little more, I guess, on medical travel and the plan. Is medical travel in its entirety undergoing a review? Or are we just looking at kind of the escort side? If maybe the minister could speak to that. Thank you.
How we move patients in the Northwest Territories is what the focus I want to look at. How we move them, who's moving, what are the things that we can not have to move people for? Is there ways that we can put things into communities that is going to be less expensive in the long run? It's more of a fulsome review of how we move people for medical in the Northwest Territories. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That was NWT Minister of Health and Social Services, Lisa Semler. She believes the GNWT moves between 40 and 50,000 people a year for medical travel. New student housing built by students for students is coming to Rankin Inlet. It's a partnership between Nunavut Housing Corporation, Nunavut Arctic College, and Pewapan Construction. The Manitoba-based construction company will supply $3 million in materials and support so that apprentices and instructors at the college can build 6 affordable units for students.
When we know that this is something that will succeed, going forward, we will work with the college or any other entity if they need units such as this, that we can use them and build them forward in any community in Nunavut as we move forward.
Construction of the 6 3-bedroom units is expected to start next month, and students should start moving in the summer of 2025. We're learning more tonight about the fight to save Fort Nelson, BC from wildfires. Our colleagues at Radio Canada spoke with one man who sprung into action to help create a fire break.
It was a wall right from that side all the way through here was black smoke. It was pretty disturbing to watch and see, and how fast it traveled. In the side about 5 hours, it moved about 15 kilometers. My name is Rick Seidel. Lived here my whole life, and I own a large construction company, and we've always offered our services that when there's an emergency, we're there for them. But it became a reality when the phone call come from the fire chief that we had a bad fire starting on the Alaska Highway, and that we needed cats to get out and start cutting a fire guard because it was rolling fast in through the residentials. The first thing we were worried about was over on the Parker Hills in this area right here, that the fire would come up over top and then burn into this area, which would candle and then litter this whole area behind us and burn into the town. So we knew the first thing to try and do was get a fire guard built across this ridge. I mean, it was disturbing, but you can't let that we had to get going. I was scared more that was going to come into this side. At that point, it was on that side of the Alaska Highway, so we were safe. Them cats pushed through till 2 o'clock in the morning. They got down off the edge of that field. They come back out. We moved into my shop in town, and my wife stayed there and started cooking for us, and we lived in that metal shop. Had 3 hours off. We went back at it again and finished cutting the guard in the bottom to woe that fire up on that side. And you can see where we stopped it down on the edge of the field, because you can see where the green is that the embers didn't get across. And then we moved further closer to town and started cutting another fire guard. You know, some of our friends lost their houses out here. And I mean, you look at, we had a cat delivered out there where the houses that are burnt at 6 o'clock at night. When we were there, that house was standing. But it got so hot in that area, we had to get out of there. And of course, then some of them homes were lost. That's the tough part for me, is that we couldn't help save them homes. I mean, whatever we've happened to us is not the hardships that them people are going through. I didn't do this to be a hero, and I don't expect any recognition for it. But there's a lot of people behind the scenes that were here that are actually the heroes that helped us. There's a lot of people out there that, you know, there's a fella out there that was fueling up the helicopters that no one will go shake his hand and tell him that he done a good job. And all these guys that were doing the security, their names aren't going to get brought up. There's lots of people behind the scenes. I mean, the cooks that were helping cook for all the people out at the airport, at the Quest hangar, there's a whole list of names. It's all community members that came together. There's not just one line of heroes that worked for me, that put the fire out. It's the support people that were behind us, that I think that's what people need to realize. This small town all came together fast.
The capital of India is in the grip of a blistering heat wave. New Delhi has recorded its hottest day ever, with temperatures topping 52 degrees Celsius. The country is no stranger to hot weather, but this summer is shaping up to be a scorcher even by local standards. Ishan Gug tells us what it's like on the ground and how people are coping.
The hottest part of the day has now passed, and we've had a brief spell of rain. Despite that, the heat here is excruciating. If you're out on the streets, you sweat non-stop. Buying some cold lemonade from one of these stands is one way to try to cool down. But there's only so much it can do when the peak temperature in the city hits 52 degrees Celsius. Northern India has been in the grip of an intense heat wave for several days now. Multiple states have seen the mercury pass the 50-degree mark. It's led to a spike in hospital admissions, and doctors say the elderly and the most vulnerable are at increased risk of heat stroke and heart problems. The heat is now particularly problematic for India's tens of millions of daily wage earners who don't have the luxury of using air conditioners or going back to well-ventilated homes at night. To make matters worse, Delhi is also facing a water shortage. Officials here say they will penalize those found wasting water. Washing your car with a hose or letting a water tank overflow could attract fines up to 33 Canadian dollars. Experts say the government also needs to pay more attention to the broader issue of climate change.
When you are already reaching a stage in our history where climate is not just a theoretical conference conversation, but it's your day-to-day reality and it affects you immediately here and now, then action should be here and now rather than ambiguous in political manifestos as just vague promises.
A 2023 study from the University of Cambridge says 24,000 people have died due to heat waves in India in the past 3 decades. Climate change is only likely to worsen this crisis. Officials here are now scrambling to figure out a response to the heat wave. Now, the weather officials here say that there could be some respite from the sweltering heat in the next few days, but that may be just a dip of a few degrees from these record-breaking temperatures. Ishan Garg for CBC News, New Delhi.
Some hopeful news today about peanut allergies. A new study finds that parents can keep babies from developing an allergy if they introduce peanuts at a young age. Kubina Uduro has more.
When Asher was 4 months old, his mother tried to feed him peanut butter.
It was a very, very scary, serious incident that had happened.
Within 30 seconds of being exposed, he had hives all over him, swollen lips, and respiratory distress. A call to 911 and a dose of epinephrine saved his life.
I just wanted to run out in the middle of the street and just scream. I was so scared. Being 4 months old, he couldn't talk, and I knew that he was finding it hard to breathe at that time.
But doctors say cases like his are the exception. And for most kids, introducing peanuts at an early age is the right approach.
Frequent exposure to peanut early in life was really persistent and effective, and really saved many of these children who were at high risk of having peanut allergy from having that lifelong disease.
A recent study by the National Institutes of Health in the U.S. found feeding peanut products to children regularly between infancy and the age of 5 helped reduce peanut allergies in adults by 71%.
I can't say that the rule of early introduction will work for 100%, but it works for the majority of children.
Advocacy group Allergies Quebec lists 9 foods, including eggs and dairy, that make up 90% of food allergies for school-age children. It wants to see more education for staff in schools.
Instead of banning a couple foods, we need them to start by training all the staff and giving them some tools to learn about how to prevent reaction and how to manage food allergies.
Pediatricians say it starts at home, and the best approach is to introduce peanuts in small doses, known as oral immunotherapy. That's what Finnemore is giving Asher now. And she urges parents to do research, have medicine close by, and keep a close watch for at least an hour after introducing the food. Cubino Duro, CBC News, Montreal.
When we see Team Canada on the world stage, we're witnessing pure greatness. What we don't see is their struggle. We don't see Maggie McNeil navigating her anxiety, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander getting cut from his high school team, or Ellie Black hearing she's just too old to compete. What we don't see makes us who we are. We're all bravely facing the odds in our lives, and our bravery is our victory.
Everyone listen up.
Bursting with flavor.
All these guys 21?
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Owning an NHL team.
Penguins had us review your offer, and it looks good.
Wow. Get me on the phone with Cops Coliseum. Tell them I want to buy it.
Former Truth and Reconciliation Commissioner Marie Wilson has written a new book. It comes about 15 years after the TRC began hearing the testimony of residential school survivors and 9 years since the Commission released its final report. It's called North of Nowhere, and in it, Wilson reflects on the Commission's work, her role within it, and the bravery of survivors. Wilson says it was important to tell the factual story of what she saw as Commissioner.
We've got, not only have we always had deniers out there, but sometimes it feels like we have rising voices of deniers out there. And, if you don't counter fabrication with facts and with what you know and what you lived and saw and experienced, then things can get completely out of kilter. And I was there firsthand. A lot of the deniers who choose to speak up now were nowhere near the Commission. And so I wanted to tell as best I could, using the skills and abilities that I have, to tell the story of what I saw. I took notes throughout. I talk about that, and there's an author's note at the beginning. I talk about where did all of this information come from. And I realized as well that while it was happening, it was so rapid. I mean, it seems like a long commission. It was 6.5 years in the end. But sometimes we would do hearings where you would hear 25 different people in a day. I mean, you look at any of our courts today, you don't hear that many people going through in a daytime. And then on to the next day, and then on to the next community. and you barely had time to catch the plane, much less collect your thoughts, and certainly not gather up your feelings about it all. And so I've really tried to take the writing of this book as an opportunity to take readers on the journey that I was on, to take them at a pace that I hope will be manageable for them to experience all of the beauty of that commission. Of course, the devastating parts of it, but the incredibly triumphant turns that happened throughout the commission, and to have a deeper understanding as well.
That was former TRC Commissioner Marie Wilson speaking about her new book, North of Nowhere. The book is launching this week as part of the Northwards Writers Festival. Members of the Carcross Tagish First Nation are about to embark on a very special journey in Alaska, a canoe trip from Haines to Juneau. The First Nation is paddling to attend an event that reunites coastal Tlingit relatives. Virginie Ann has the details.
This is the first time in more than 100 years that the First Nation is doing this journey. Sitting at the back of the canoe is Donna Johns. She will be guiding the group through what she calls Tlingit ancient water routes. She says this is not for the faint of heart.
Like, we've been trying the past few days, trying to get ready to get on the ocean. Everybody's like really extremely brave. So when I call these kids like warriors, like, I mean it. They're truly warriors. I'm gonna tell them too, like, don't worry, it's in our blood and our ancestors.
The group has been practicing right here in Carcross. They have been learning how to call upon their ancestors' strength and how to navigate with the canoe. The journey is expected to take 5 days. 19-year-old Haley Fairclough says being part of the trip is a way for her to reconnect with her roots.
And it's something that I see my grandma and my auntie, who aren't here with us anymore, would be so proud of me watching us and watching me and my cousins go down on this canoe, and it would be amazing for us.
Paddlers are leaving from Haines, Alaska at the end of this week. They will arrive just in time for Celebration, a cultural gathering held every 2 years with Indigenous people coming from Alaska and Canada. By the time they get there, each stroke of their paddles will have brought the group closer to their culture as they become one with the canoe's rhythmic motion, dancing on the rocking waves. The 3-day event starts on June 5th in Juneau. Virginie Ann, CBC News, Carcross.
Competitive sailors from around the world are converging on Halifax. The city is playing host to a new sailing league called Sail GP or Sail Grand Prix. Ruskin tells us all about it.
Welcome to Sail GP Halifax. This is the latest stop in this international competition that's seen races in Dubai, in Singapore, in New York City, Sydney, Australia. Now add Halifax, Nova Scotia to that list. So you can see the tents around behind me, each one of the countries and boats represented, but here is Team Canada's boat. Their F50 foiling catamaran, so F means foiling, 50 feet long. And when I say foiling, I mean the wings that are on the bottom, sort of wings, that are on the bottom like this. So these are not attached to the boat belonging to Team France, but they are underneath right over here, where you can see them extending down there. That allows these sailboats to reach just incredible speeds, up to 100 kilometers per hour with tight turns. Oh, and look what's happening right here. Team Canada's wing, their sail, is being lifted up right there by the crane. This is step one to load the boats into the water. Take a look at Team Canada's wing. Again, being loaded up there, brought vertical. Then that wing is going to be attached to the vessel, lock it in. Then that crane is going to lift the wing and the boat into the water. Now, hydrofoiling was invented here up in Badek. Alexander Graham Bell, when he was done with the telephone, when he was done with the first powered aircraft in Canada, he invented the hydrofoil. Fast forward 100 years, now we have these boats here made of carbon fiber. The T-foil there, that shape there is made of titanium. The cutting edge, the leading edge of sailing technology happening here. So one more quick look at the overall site here. This is Team Germany's boat, again Team Canada's wing, and Halifax Harbour out in the distance with races set to happen all weekend long. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, you can always go to our website, cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
When we see Maggie McNeil, she's an Olympic gold medalist gliding through the pool. What we don't see is a person who refuses to let anxiety keep her from the starting block. When we see Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, the man's unstoppable. What we don't see is a skinny kid who got cut from his high school team. We don't see Maud Sharon being forced to change weight classes after she won Olympic gold. Ellie Black hearing she's just too old to compete as she prepares for her 4th Olympic Games. Or Andre DeGrasse dealing with all the doubters, including himself. What we don't see makes these athletes who they are. What we don't see makes us all who we are. We're all bravely facing the odds in our lives, and our bravery is our victory.
You're gonna scare me.
Look out! Ain't nobody gonna stop me.
We have a new world record.
Oh my God.
We're a team. We fight the best we can.
Who cries more, winners or losers?
Cry if you want to cry.
Can heartbreak help break records?
You want to be great? You need to sacrifice.
Do bigger fans have higher blood pressure?
How's your heart rate?
Why do we love rooting for underdogs?
Gotta support the home team.
What makes top dogs go the distance? How far will champions go to win?
I was just curious.
Does it matter if they have nothing to lose?
Is that a yes?
When you get curious, you get CBC.
Thank you for choosing Plan B.
Tell me what I need to do to save my family.
Please enter your date of travel.
I can't do this anymore.
If you could go back, change things, would you do it?
One of these days, we're gonna have to grow up. But today is not that day.
I don't want us to get older either.
Son of a Critch. Watch free on CBC Gem. Q with Tom Power. Available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.